So as the leaves are falling from the trees, the days are getting shorter, darkness is absorbing more light. As we near the close of our church's liturgical year, it's fitting that we stop and reflect upon the end times, that we stop and reflect upon the reality of our death. And the scriptures during this time of the year invite us to do exactly that. The setting of the gospel today is very interesting. Jesus goes to the holy city, Jerusalem, with his disciples from the rural area, from the country, Nazareth. And that experience probably was pretty overwhelming for the disciples, because the temple had to be one of the most impressive sights the disciples had ever seen. They must have stood in awe of its size, of its beauty. It'd be comparable like someone from Terry, Montana, who's never been more than a 50-mile radius away from that little town, all of a sudden goes to the Capitol at Washington, D.C., or St. Peter's in Rome, or the Taj Mahal in India, and they'd be blown away. Well, Jesus says, do you see these great buildings? There will not be one, there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. Well, this language is shocking. And Jesus says not only will the temple be destroyed, the world as you know it will be destroyed. So could you imagine the response of the apostles who saw Jesus as the Son of God using this type of language? They had to be shocked, they had to be confused. Yet, at the same time, they may have thought this language was kind of fascinating. What is he talking about? Even today, people find that type of language fascinating. They can get hooked into it. They love this language. Hey, when will it happen? The end times. What is it going to be like? And of course, Jesus tells us, no one knows the day nor the hour. Only the Father knows. I'm meeting with a lady who's 80-some years old, and she's preparing to enter into the church. And she was talking about this yesterday when I was meeting with her. And she says, only the Father knows when it's going to happen. Jesus doesn't even know. And I said, well, he might know now, but then he didn't really know. And but the point is, we must always be ready, right? For we know not the day nor the hour. And that's true at the end of times, but it's also true about our own lives, right? Because we're very fragile, whether we want to admit it or not. Well, anyway, this type of writing, this type of talk is categorized in the literary genre of apocalyptic literature. And the best examples of this type of writing and language would be the book of Daniel, which we heard from this evening in the Old Testament, and the book of Revelation in the New Testament. The word apocalypse gives it away. The book of Revelation is also called the apocalypse. And it does not mean the end times, but it literally means to uncover, to unveil. It's a showing. That is why this Greek word was translated into revelation, revealing. And this unveiling is a key to this text. But what is being unveiled? What is being revealed to this generation? Well, in the gospel, Jesus said to his disciples, in those days after the tribulation, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. That's code language. For the ancient people, the stars, the moon, and the sun were the means of navigation. They didn't have their cell phone. They looked to the sky, and they knew the sky better than all of us, right? Because it guided them, it led them. They were the means of navigation, even the way they told time. And they steered their lives by these cosmic principles that guided the world. And what Jesus is saying is that the way you are customarily ordered and guided in your life will be no more. The temple which ordered your life will be no longer. It's going to change. Something new is going to be unveiled in this generation. What is he talking about? He's talking about his own life, death, and resurrection. That changes everything. Okay? We call that the Paschal mystery. In Jesus' resurrection, the way of sin is broken. So if I'm going to allow the Lord of light and life to guide my life, I am no longer guided by the star of my selfish self, nor the star of the world. I have a new way of seeing, thinking, and imagining. And it's been revealed to us in Jesus Christ. So if we live in Christ, we will move through life very differently. When St. Paul said, "It's no longer I who live, it is Christ who lives in me," the old self, the self guided by the sun, the moon, and the stars of the old world, has fallen out of the sky, and now I govern my life by the light of Jesus Christ, who is risen from the dead. So our navigational controls are going to be different when we allow Jesus to be the Good Shepherd, to lead us and guide us. When Christ, who's risen from the dead, has become unveiled for us, when we live in Christ, we become new creations in him, and we will be a people filled with light and hope, even in the midst of darkness. And when we live in Christ, we can change not only our own lives, we can impact the lives of those around us, and ultimately, we can change the world.